Boy, when I wrote this chapter originally, it was one of the first chapters I wrote originally when this was initially a book proposal back in 2019. And it was on George W. Bush and lying in politics. And the pushback was pretty severe. It was why single President Bush out for all politicians who lie. And the reality of it is, yes, every president since George Washington has lied to the American people at one point or another. Why is this one so important? And it's tough. There's this particular set of falsehoods, really surrounding weapons of mass destruction is a really excellent opportunity to tease out why lying is so effective and why it's effective in politics. But when most people hear someone like me say that in advertising, they say, well, if it's lying, you guys should understand lying better than anyone else. You lie to us all the time. And I want to read you a little excerpt from the beginning because that's actually not true. And let's hit that up front. I am fascinated with deception, how it's done, why it works, and how to combat it. I suppose that's only natural for someone in the advertising business, but maybe not for the reasons you'd think. In advertising, I cannot lie to you. Yes, I can make a claim that something is the best. That's just fluff. But if I want to say that my homeopathic remedy shortens the duration of a common cold, I had better have rigorous data to back that up. Ideally, clinical trial level data. If I don't, I can be held liable in civil court, and if the lie was egregious enough, criminal court as well. I'm also likely to get a nasty letter from the Federal Trade Commission reminding me that advertising speech is commercial speech, not free speech, and therefore subject to certain rules. In my field, we need to understand deception as a risk mitigation strategy. Our livelihoods depend on it. In short, advertising lies have consequences. Do political lies have consequences? I'm not sure that they do. In fact, the effective mix of lies, partial lies, and truth is part of what defines political effectiveness. If we're going to understand how presidents communicate, or how any politician communicates for that matter, we need to accept that deception is part of the toolkit. So this chapter goes through the WMD issues briefly, though, and really starts to unpack the different types of lies, deceptions, falsehoods, and the mix of truth and fiction, what makes it so effective. My view is twofold. One, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So the more you understand about what's going on, the more you can protect yourself. But frankly, my perspective is a little jaded from marketing and advertising. We live in a regulated speech environment, and there's an old saying, I'm misattributing it for sure, but it's if you were to compare an advertisement for a product and a advertisement for a politician, I would believe the advertisement for the product every day of the week, and I wouldn't believe a thing the political ad said. And there's some truth to that. The claims can be verifiable, and they are held accountable, at least in United States law. So interesting. This is a chapter if you're outside of our field, you may not really agree with. You may really push back on, but for my colleagues in marketing and advertising, you'll absolutely get what I'm talking about. I think it's an interesting way to begin to inoculate yourself about how do you address deception? How do you handle this flood of misinformation and partial truths that are coming at you right now? This chapter is useful in that regard. I'm kind of sorry. I think George W. Bush, for all his faults, and all the presidents have and had faults, seemed like overall a really decent guy. Agree with him or not, a decent human being, at least at his core. But he's a politician, like all the others. And I think holding him to a different standard than all the rest of us is probably ill-advised. So check out George W. Bush's chapter in Marketer in Chief coming July 4th, 2021, wherever books are sold.